Welcome back to Why We Like This, the podcast that treats Florida like the active crime scene it is. I am not reading off of a script, actually. I am just freeballing right now. I'm David Quinones. I'm your host. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host. Soon he's going to have a new compatriot from Argentina. Peter Thiel is going to be visiting his ancestral home. Tomas Kennedy. Hey, Tomas.
What's up, y'all? So, as Peter Thiel flees to Argentina, I fled to the Bay Area, where I'm here sabotaging Waymos.
What are you doing to him? You're pretending to get into them, and then just
throwing up.
Just putting like a little. Just throwing up inside of them and then leaving. And if I'm joined by Tomas, that can only mean that I'm joined by my other co-host. He broke his right pinky finger, but don't worry, he's good for game one. Yep. It's Gerald Doherty.
Yep, nothing's going to stop me. I was visited by a doctor who was wearing white and robes. What was it? What else was in the image? There was a nurse behind them. Anyway, that picture happened to me in my pinky, and now I'm ready for game one.
Wait, okay, so we're talking about Mitchell Robinson, the New York Knicks, backup center.
You have to stop torturing Tomas with this.
I know, with all the...
Honestly, I'm not Catholic anymore, but I feel nothing but Catholic guilt whenever we do this to him.
Mitchell Robinson may be best known, Tomas, for being the worst career free throw shooter in the history of basketball, in the history of professional basketball. Jared, what do you think your free throw percentage would be if you played a solid 4 seasons in the NBA and you had to shoot in front of the Madison Square Garden?
I mean, those rims are pretty high, and I'm 5'10", and I still think I could get at least 1 out of 3.
So 33%. Yeah. That's not good.
Yes. Now imagine if I was 7 feet tall. Wouldn't that become embarrassing?
The way that I had
his rate is 33%.
Like that. He's really low, 33%.
That's crazy.
He has no touch, and he has a terrible release, and he also has because
he's excellent at defense. He can not score, but he can keep you from scoring.
Yes, he's better at keeping other people from scoring than other people are at, taking advantage of his liabilities. So
I can't do either, so I'm not talking shit.
Yeah. It's honestly a good Miami lifestyle type of a guy who cannot score himself, but can keep other people around him from scoring by always being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
We had guys like that in college, and we fucking hated them. Moving on, I wanted to jump into an article, into a topic that we've discussed on a previous episode. Since the last time we've talked, we now have had sworn in a new Fed chair. Obviously, we have spoken in the past about how there are certain safeguards with the construction of the governorship of the Fed and stuff like that. It's not like a sea change comes when you get in a new chair, but this is something that Gerald has been following pretty closely because it is important for a lot of monetary policy and how that trickles down to the way that that we live and spend and the way our economy works. This from CNN last week. Kevin Warsh was sworn in Friday at the White House as chairman of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System, succeeding Jerome Powell in one of the world's most powerful economic positions. Warsh, 56, steps into the 4-year role at a time of mounting uncertainty over inflation, geopolitical conflicts, and volatile financial markets, alongside rising political pressure on the central bank's independence. So, Gerald, other than getting that $250 Donald Trump note out there into the circulation, what can we expect from the new Fed chair?
So, on a couple of notes, the reason that they boosted this guy is because he's ideological. He knows what the shot is for MAGA. They want to reduce rates as quickly as possible, not just because it would be popular with borrowers and it would increase the rate of circulation and the ease and the flow of currency. But don't forget, one of the reasons why the tech industry shifted to the right was not just Lina Khan at the, is it the FCC? Sorry.
The CFPB? Was it the CFPB? The Consumer Financial Protection?
I forget what hang on.
The FTC, the FTC,
Federal Trade Commission.
FTC,
the Federal Trade
sorry,
Commission.
I said FCC.
I wanted to say Financial Trade Commission, and I was like, all trades are financial, dummy.
I was off by one letter. FTC.
You guys can't edit this, by the way.
No, leave it in. Leave it in. Honestly, make it the promo. Make it the promo. I don't care. But one of the other things that caused Silicon Valley to shift to the right was that the spigot of free credit of easy credit and cheap borrowing was cut off to them. And so it's also not just a sop to consumers, but a sop to donors as well, to try to get the interest rates lowered. The problem with all of this is they just had their first report under Kevin Warsh, which shows that inflation is at its highest rate since January of 2023. And that's driven by tariffs, and that's driven by the tightening of supply of energy due to the Iran war, and shows no sign of slowing down. So if you cut interest rates in the current environment, you should only expect inflation to keep climbing, maybe to levels not seen since the worst pandemic in 100 years.
Take me back to 2020.
I'm not saying that, but I am saying that it is worth keeping an eye on this guy and what maneuvers he makes, given the current, given what his charge is, and given the current economic landscape, what choices he's going to make.
Like, so much of this feels like it's, I don't know. I feel like we're at the beginning of an era where we can just keep voting in like single term solutions, and we're just going to kind of keep ping ponging back and forth, like waiting for one of the parties to be better at like slowing down the rapid collapse of the economy of this country. That's kind of like not really based on a lot apart from, like NVIDIA chips and shit like that. Other than that, we're like, there's not really much to our economy anymore. Weapons and NVIDIA chips, gambling, fucking Kalshi bets. That's like not a lot.
Well, but I bring it up because it's the only time I remember. I'm a child of the 90s. It's the only time I can remember the charge of a chair of a Federal Reserve being governed by ideology and not what are the current economic conditions, what are the maneuvers I have to make, etc. This is closer to, there's a giant Medicaid expansion under Obamacare. I'm going to make it so that my residents can't access it because of ideology and nothing else. This is the closest that the Federal Reserve has gotten to that style of governance.
Yeah, like we had talked in a very recent episode about early 2010s Republican state governors who were like, oh, yeah, sure, it might sound nice having high-speed rail in our state, but
fuck you,
Barack Hussein Obama.
Yeah,
you know that Barack Obama's middle name is Hussein, right?
Yeah,
and like that was the entire rebuttal.
Who's saying that? Not me.
Yeah, what kind of shit is it? What kind of shit is this? So. Yeah, but what that reminds me a lot of, Jared, and I kind of alluded to it before we started recording when we were talking about this, is like the failure to measure anymore, or to really understand and get out like solid measurements, or what solid measurements would be, or like where, like you saying that this report, hang on a second, you saying that this report like shows that level of inflation. Like there's 20 different sources these days that you can go to that will kind of lie to you in the way that you want to be lied to, or to like tell you what, and it's the same thing. Yeah, go ahead.
Conversely, there are also a variety of different sites that can keep these kinds of actors honest. Like there are other like agencies, there are other firms that run their own numbers, and you can kind of get a ballpark sense of where things go. So it is going to be tough if they decide to start fudging numbers internally.
Well,
they will get caught.
So what do you like? How do you hold that up with like and I haven't checked in, so keep me honest if you're more up to date on this issue. But I know that as recently as a month ago, it was still in the works to, and I know this is like an SEC thing, I don't want to mix apples and oranges, but that there was a proposal in the works to eliminate quarterly reporting for publicly traded companies. Like I guess my bigger point is like the ability to like quote unquote hide the ball. Like the ball's not getting any smaller, but they're using bigger gloves to be able to hide the ball. It feels like.
And 10 years ago, that was like an idea floated by like the Warren section of like the Democratic Party, that there's too much focus on quarterly earnings. We need to be thinking long-term investment, long-term vision, long-term strategy, not just short-term short holder game. That pitch from like, I'd say 10, 15 years ago has been perverted by the right into why do I have to tell? I shouldn't have to tell you anything ever, but I'll at least do it once a year.
We had a guy when I worked at a cell phone store who like got in really bad trouble gambling, and he pulled the Empire Records move where he just like stole the deposit bags at the end of the night and just didn't put them in the deposit or whatever, and he just went and gambled them instead because he was trying to get out of this hole. And when the loss prevention guys were like interviewing him and talking to him, he basically said like, man, if I had like another week, I could have gotten away with it.
Yeah.
And like that's what it reminds me of. It's like, God, I just anyway. I bring it all up because I had read this article by. Do you guys know who Annie Lowrey is? Annie Lowrey is Ezra Klein's wife, and she is a Annie. Sorry, Annie. And she is a reporter or a writer, I should say. I don't think there's a lot of reporting happening over at The Atlantic. It's mostly just writing. But she is a writer at The Atlantic, and she had this article this week called "The Vibe Session is Over. The Perma Session is here." So this is, I'm just going to read you a little bit from it. This is, according to Americans, it's bad out there, real bad. This month, the University of Michigan's index of consumer sentiment dropped to its lowest point since 1952. And then she proceeds to kind of go through, you can tell where this is going, all right? This is somebody who doesn't believe that the lived experience of people is really that bad. It's actually okay. It's fine, guys. It's fine. Here's 10 different...
nonstop in this podcast during the Biden administration.
Yeah.
Right. It was the same article over and over. Think students and retaillees are dour. Rural and urban voters are dissatisfied. Indeed, households are feeling worse about their personal finances and the broader state of the economy. And again, this is like where she was. I've been covering the Vibe Session for a few years now, and I thought I mostly understood it. Headline: economic statistics are failing to capture the fragility and strain. And then it goes into all of these stats. Gerald, I think you were the one that shared in our chat a few weeks ago. You were like, the meme of the stick figure being like, the numbers don't lie, dumbass, and it was like he was holding up like the wrong numbers or whatever, or statistics don't lie, and that's what this is. It's a lot of like source, like, okay, the example that she relied that Lowry relies on a lot is the unemployment figure, which I contend, and I think we've said on this podcast before, but I'll come out and I'll say it again, is probably the least useful statistic that exists and gets passed around. I know that it has profound effects on trading on the last Friday of every month whenever it comes out, to the extent that they even release it anymore. But like that stat and so many other statistics released by like either the Fed or the Fred or like all of these different data sources, BLS, they are so gamed. And so, and this happened under Biden too. So I don't want to make it sound like it's just like a uniquely Trump thing, but like, I feel like I think we're really close to not being able to know which way is up, to having the Annie Lowrey class of people legitimately thinking that everything is fucking fine. And that the vast majority of everybody else barely hanging on and like just barely getting the bills paid on time.
I mean, so you guys have read that book by Various Yanofakis, Feudalism?
No, I haven't read it.
I have it on the shelf. I haven't cracked it yet.
You should crack it. It's good. But anyways, he's not the first one to make this point. You know, the aftermath of 2008 thought the financial elites, is that if there is a financial crisis, the central banks are coming to the rescue. Like, they are indeed too big to fail, and they've just gotten bigger for failure, right? So they know that whatever happens, the central banks will bail them out. They know that they are not going to let, another Great Depression scenario happen, right? And that's why you see this sort of like circular investment happening around the AI, where the valuations vastly supersede, titanically supersede the profitability of these companies who aren't even actually profitable. The only AI company that is on track to make any sort of profitability is actually Amazon. The other ones are not. And we always read these headlines around the systems is sort of like coming apart at the seams. It's because the investors, they don't give a shit. It's like Tesla. They don't give a shit about profitability. They don't give a shit about the relationship between these companies to actual like physicality, because they're just a profit generator, right? And again, they know, look, if the actual physicality, if the actual energy input of the AI infrastructure, if the question is actually called, they're like, we will get bailed out. We will get bailed out. The central bank money is coming. So that at the end of the day, that's what's happening, you know.
Americans, this is again from the Atlantic article. Americans are expressing some of the deepest, broadest, and stubbornest economic pessimism ever recorded. They're doing so even though nearly every American who wants a job has one, and the stock market is booming.
And
Guys,
what kind of a job?
Doesn't matter, Tomas. If you want one, you've got
jobs?
one.
And how many jobs?
Yeah,
The problem is not that Americans are underemployed; it's that they're overemployed on shitty fucking jobs,
shitty fucking gig work and and hustles and shit. Well, I looked this up recently, and I think we had mentioned this years ago on an episode about the idea that like there isn't a the BLS and the Fred, they release data. The Fred specifically releases data on gig work, but it's not comprehensive, and it also doesn't overlay like we don't know how many people out there have a W-2 paying job and then also go home and have to do gig work. We don't have a statistic for that. And at this point, like this deep into the concept of gig work, the concept of having to like be a 1099 worker, getting subsistence wages on your off hours, like that's an intentional blind spot. That's willful blindness, because we don't want to talk about that, because we don't want to say this many Americans are overemployed and doing too much and working 70, 80, 90-hour weeks for like not a lot of remuneration.
Yeah, the other side of that coin is that official unemployment figures only count people that have been laid off and are actively looking for work within I think it's like the 4 to 8 weeks. It's like a very short amount of time. People that fall within that, outside of that time frame, and are not considered to be actively looking for work. Like I'm not bullshitting about this. They're not considered unemployed by these like figures. So the actual unemployment number is like much larger. So you have a vast pool of workers who might not be looking for work that the government considers outside of the labor market because they're not trying to participate on it. I mean, insane.
Non-participants. Yeah.
And then you have a bunch of other people that are like working 2 to 3 jobs, that are like in shitty service fucking jobs, that are working under the table in some cases, that are in this gig economy, jobs that like Uber, for example, that are now being replaced by driverless Waymo vehicles. So it's really like the worst of both worlds in terms of like the labor market.
Well, Gerald, you had mentioned
it's much worse than the official figures painted to be in both ways.
There's a number that was used by people trying to capture the sense of anger and despair during the recovery from the Great Recession. What Tomas is describing is, I believe, U4, what's called U4 unemployment, which is like the traditional unemployment rate. And then there's U6, which counts people who are underemployed, people working multiple shitty jobs, people who are unemployed but actively seeking work. If that was the number that we were working with, the unemployment rate being bandied about would be 8%, not 4%. It's twice as large. Yeah. And by the way, that number is still not that bad historically.
I mean, or even in the present, compare it to, I don't know, like youth unemployment in France or something, right? Because those are the numbers that get trotted out whenever our, overproduction focused, national mindset starts thinking about like, oh, we're having an unemployment crisis. Well, don't forget that a third of the French don't work and whatever. But again, the devil's in the details. And it's like, yeah, they're probably... a lot of that is the way that they count those numbers, and the way that we refuse to, the way that we lie with statistics in this country.
But if the people who, study this for a living are all making, comfortably 6 figures, let's say, and they're looking at their metrics and their statistics, and they're saying, well, if the people aren't if my metrics say things are good and people are unhappy, therefore the people are, that's like the Seymour Skinner ass, like, am I out of touch? No, it's the children who are wrong. Like at a certain point you have to, I'm not saying I know what the answer is. I'm not saying I have a new model or a new system or measurement, but it should call into question how useful your metrics are if you're being painted a rosy picture and people are complaining about how shit everything is.
Right. She says 96 out of every 100 Americans who want a job have one. First of all, how do you know that? that's, you know, going back into the digging into the, it's not even very deep weeds, but just what Tomas had said, like, will show you that that's bullshit, that's not true. Like, all you have to do is expand that definition of who wants a job. The rate of underemployment is low. The rate of, she says, the rate of labor force participation is high. Again, how can you actually know that based on what's being measured here? Meaning that there's no pool of discouraged workers lurking behind the marquee job statistics. Bullshit, man. There's more than a pool. There's a fucking an avalanche of people who are making X amount and need to be making 2 to 3 times that amount in order to have even the and I'm not talking about some extravagant bullshit life. Like, I'm talking about just like a basic mortgages paid, have a little bit of money to invest, have money to have a kid, have money to, like, you know, keep my family safe type of level of money. Like, there are people who are so outpaced by the increase of by inflation and just the overall cost of, like, what it costs to exist in a metro city in this country these days, that, like, there's you might as well be telling them a fucking fairy tale when you tell them about how the world used to work in the 90s. That, like, I worked at when I was like 17 years old, and I worked at Sears selling hardware, and that there were men who had the same fucking job as me, who owned homes and who raised fucking families, and I went to school with their kids and shit, and they made the same money that I made. It's like, oh, that shit will never happen again. I don't care how much Annie Lowrey tells us that it's in our head, that actually it's fine, everything's fine. No, man, nothing's fucking fine. Everything's falling apart. Doesn't matter what cherry picked stats you use to, you know, fill your 20 column inches in the Atlantic this week. Anyway,
really, like, people should be embarrassed to publish something like that. I mean, it's beyond disgraceful. It is just idiotic, honestly. Like, it's embarrassing.
I want to change topics a little clumsily.
On that note,
bye, Annie. Fuck off. Go be abundant. Go get your abundant husband and be abundant together. We've had the conversations before.
Abundant inflation. That's abundant.
It's everywhere. Everywhere.
Yeah.
Shitty job postings that actually don't. I still get served up r/recruiting hell posts on Reddit, and, like, I got to tell you, I'm really glad I'm not looking for a job right now, because it sounds like hell to the name of like. If I had to guess, I think like 99% of job postings are bullshit and they're not real. So, like, but according to Annie Lowrey, I'm sure that just means that there's lots of open positions out there if you want to work and hustle. So anyway, we talked before in the past about, like, this idea of, like, unexpected benefits of being inside of, like, the heart of empire, or being inside the heart of, like a red state, right? Like, how, like, oh, well, actually things kind of, like, the way that the Trump administration is very unfair and corrupt in its treatment of blue states kind of sometimes redounds to our benefit. I don't know what do you guys think about this idea that there will be no more international travel into blue states and blue cities that Trump is floating, right? Or no, I'm sorry, that I believe it's Pete Hegseth that's actually floating that, saying that quote unquote sanctuary cities like New York and LA and your beloved San Francisco, Tomas, will not be allowed to have international flights. I'm wondering how that will affect us here in Miami as a red state. A red city in a red state.
I mean, the airport is so dysfunctional that this policy might as well have been already implemented here.
Wait, the SFO, you mean?
I'm talking about Miami International Airport.
Okay, yeah, well, that's dog shit airport.
I'm saying like
fucking
that
airport.
policy might as well have been already in place in a red city, in a red state, because the airport.
So wait, you guys don't think that MIA can handle like a 30% increase in incoming flights right now in its current state?
It can't handle 30% less flights. Like, are you kidding me?
What were you gonna say, Jer?
I do like the poetry of the first action of the first conservative president being to tell the air traffic control workers to get back to work or you're going to lose your job. And what could very well be the last conservative president saying, actually, you know what, your services are no longer required, actually. Time to go home.
I don't know. I mean, and this all happens like as we're getting ready to have the World Cup here. And I don't know, man. I don't know.
Literally, like, bro, they continuing to fuck around with FIFA is gonna be with ICE is gonna be at the World Cup events. I mean, did you see Mark Mullen saying like, yeah, no, ICE is going to be at the World Cup this week. Continuing with the fucking bullshit in Iran, driving up ticket prices, energy crisis, continuing with the fucking price gouging and exploitation offense that comes from FIFA, of course. Continuing with the tariffs bullshit, against, the aggression against Mexico, Now it's just like everything possible to make the World Cup as complicated as possible.
As much of a failure as possible.
I don't fuck FIFA, but wow.
By the way, tying in with what we already talked about, another one of these things that, mark my words, by the time it's over, the World Cup, there will be 10 handpicked, cherry-picked statistics that will actually say that it was the best, most successful. Many people, Tomas, are saying it was the best run World Cup in the history of the World Cup. Guarantee. But let's not criticize ICE too much, like literally, guys, because this is from a Bloomberg article right here titled, the DOJ wants to know who on Reddit and X is criticizing ICE's tactics.
Okay,
the U.S. Justice Department is seeking the names, addresses, and banking information of Reddit and X users, ratcheting up efforts to identify social media critics of government deportation efforts. The U.S. Attorney's Office for Washington, led by our buddy Jeanine Pirro, a close ally of President Donald Trump, has subpoenaed the social media companies as part of criminal investigations, asking for personal information on at least 2 anonymous posters behind accounts that have chided immigration, that's illegal now, chiding, I guess, immigration enforcement efforts, according to records shared by attorneys for the users. The anonymous users who learned of the subpoenas from the platforms and hired lawyers to challenge the government's demands for information haven't been told what possible offenses are being probed. Wonderful. Their lawyers believe that we'll let you know when we figure out what the offenses are. Their lawyers believe the investigations could relate to allegations of revealing a federal officer's location data. So I guess like doxing type bullshit. So yeah, careful what you guys are doing on your alts.
Oops.
Tomas is like, what are you talking about? I do that shit on Maine.
I stay posting on Maine. I stand on business.
Until the last episode of Why Are We Like This, and we realized that Tomas Kennedy was just like a Kaiser Soze figure. He never really existed. He walks away. All of his articles online just unpublish automatically. It's like he was never really there.
That would be amazing. I wish I could take it all back.
This is like, I wish I could take it all back and be a conservative grifter. Yep. That's where the fucking money is, baby.
Hey, listen, I could always write that why I left the left column.
I think that we would not be doing a service to our listeners if we didn't at least try to explain what the fuck has been going on the last week and a half, Tomas, in Congressional District 2024 and 27. Well, 27 is kind of obvious. We know what's going on. But like 20 and 24, there's been like a lot of movement. And then culminating in today, something that you had predicted in our chat, that Federica Wilson is going to... She says she's not retiring, but she's not running for office again. So I don't know what the fuck that means. But Federica Wilson... Yeah, she's
retiring from the district.
She's retiring from the district, but I guess she doesn't like the word retiring. When you're 83 years old and you've been in public office for fucking ever, you just want to, I guess, extend the grift. But like
Congresswoman emeritus, I suppose.
I don't know. So I wanted to I was gonna try to ask Tomas to just give people a breakdown of like what's going on in those districts. But like
you're talking about Debbie Wasserman Schultz and
with Debbie Wasserman Schultz to like I don't know, and we talked about. Churfless, her resignation, I think 3 episodes ago, because that actually was a little while ago now.
Yeah, dude.
So, and then the consolidation of these districts, and it was only, I think, on May 4th that the map got signed in. So that DeSantis's map got approved, right? Something like that. It was very recent, like in the last few weeks. I don't know. I'm just kind of tossing it as like a open meatball across the plate. To you, Tomas? Like what's your
speech? Tossing meatball.
Yeah, meatball would be like an easy to hit pitch, like right over the middle of the plate. I'm sorry, more team sports shit, Gerald. We're fucking with our boy. We got to stop doing it.
Is this a figure of speech?
We're gonna throw you a nice warm yerba mate right into your.
I've heard it's a softball.
A softball, yeah. That's. Yeah.
There we go. Anyways, all right. So basically, let's start with washing machine Schultz. So nothing. the districts there's been obviously a heavily partisan gerrymander of Florida, in which districts have been Republican districts, have been consolidated into Democratic districts. So think about it like this. There have been Republican districts that were previously 70% Republican, 30% Democrat. They've grabbed areas of Democratic districts that may contain some Republican or some Republican leaning or some Republican thought ass voters to make these to enlarge and add Republican districts that are a little bit more diluted. They might be 60-40% Republican to Democrat, right? But they basically chopped up Democratic districts and added Republican districts. Gerrymandering, right? And they did this in Broward County. And they chopped up Debbie Wasserman Schultz district, Congresswoman, Jared Moskowitz district, etc., etc. Those were the main casualties. So now there is an empty congressional district that previously held by Shayla Cherflis McCormick, who grifted off of PPP loans during the COVID era to buy herself expensive rings and other bullshit. She had to resign before being expelled by her peers in the House of Representatives. Now the seat is empty. There are a number of Black Democrats that are running in the district because this is a Black majority district or a heavy Black Democrat district. Historically has been seen as a sort of a Black representation district and has been that for the last almost 30 years.
Geographically, it's kind of like Southern Broward, like
it's like Miramar,
like Lauderhill, Miramar,
yeah, Black areas of Broward.
Black areas of Broward, yeah.
Yeah, so now, former mayor of Broward, Dale Holness, was running, Elijah Manley, Luther Campbell,
Uncle Luke
of Two Live Crew fame, some other folks. Turns out that now Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who has been cut off from her district, instead of running in a slightly more Republican competitive district, she has millions of dollars in the bank, name ID, etc. She decides that she is going to instead carpetbag into this.
Former leader of the DNC, has like every resource at her disposal.
Right, yeah. Decides she's going to carpetbag into this district, run there instead, and basically try to win the primary for an easy general election for a Democrat. And obviously this makes a lot of people really mad because they see us sort of perpetuating the erosion of Black representation across Florida through this partisan gerrymandering that's obviously racially motivated because it's part of the broader effort to cut the Voting Rights Act.
And it's very much this like paternalistic thing too with the Democrats that they get accused of very often by Black constituents of being like you come in and you tell us what's good for us and you tell us you need this candidate, you need that candidate. Not like there haven't been many flawed Black candidates come through South Florida. There have been plenty. But and not just candidates, but representatives and elected officials that,
Yeah, look, and it's also beyond the racial argument. It's also just not very tactical for the Democrats, right? Because if the goal is to have, the best opportunity to win as many seats, this district is going to go to a Democrat no matter what. So you want somebody that has a lot of name recognition and money to run for a competitive seat, right? And she's just not doing that. She's not taking one for the team. So it's pretty dishonorable too.
Yeah, and and Moskowitz now is going to run in the 25th, which and I can't stand that guy, dude.
That guy. I wouldn't vote for a Republican if I lived in the district, but I also wouldn't vote for him. I literally would abstain. That guy is
garbage water.
Yeah, he's a horrible pseudo Republican, like just extreme Zionist, just constantly dehumanizing Palestinians, warmonger, a war agitator, pro-war in Iran. Also, he was like, I think this has been memory hold, but he was Ron DeSantis's head of the
COVID response, right?
Management.
Yeah,
like during COVID.
Yeah, I remember him in that role. That's where I first, because he changed his name to Moskowitz, and like I think a lot of people like not his real name, but like on his Twitter name, he changed to Jared Moskowitz, and then like as conservative like rank and file voters like in Q3, Q4 of 2020 started getting the word that their programming instructions that they're supposed to hate masks. They started hating him for it, and so he very quickly reversed on wearing masks and like he's like, never mind, sorry, I called myself that. Forget all about that. And yeah, you're right. His whole role was memory hold. A lot of shit about like DeSantis and the early days of COVID have been memory hold, and not like I want to relitigate any of that. But yeah, you're right. And if you ever see him, like whenever he pops up on my feed, he's like, it's these obvious like low hanging fruit, like early 2010 Liz Warren yelling at an asshole in a suit type of clips where it's like Florida Democratic congressman destroys Holocaust denier or some shit like that. And it's like, okay, man, what are you doing? Like, what are you actually doing? So yeah. Meanwhile, in District 27, my district, I think yours too, right, Tomas?
I live in Frederica Wilson's district.
Oh, you do?
Okay. In Little Haiti.
Oh, that's right. That stops there. Yeah, down here in my district where we're represented by Maria Elvira Salazar, we have, I guess, her top challenger, former anchor. I think he's a former anchor, right? He hasn't been on TV in a long time. Elliot Rodriguez. I haven't heard a word from him since he announced that he was running, which I guess good for him. I'm not getting incessant text messages from him, but like, is he actually running? Does that guy like trying to win? I don't know. Like,
I don't know, bro. Florida. They're never trying to win.
Yeah, Robert Peguero. We know some folks that work on his campaign, and good luck to him. But it doesn't seem like the Democrats are putting together the necessary. Yeah, they're not like this is a first of all a very influential and kind of I don't know. I guess they just wrote off Florida. I was going to say Florida Congressional District 27 includes like Coconut Grove, it includes Brickell, it includes like most of the city of Miami, and like it seems like they've just kind of written that off, despite the fact that the city of Miami just elected a very super Hillary Clinton lib-coated Democrat as mayor. It seems like the Democrats are like, yeah, but
I mean, can you blame them?
Yeah, I guess not. You know what? But I will. I'll blame him anyway. Should I blame them?
Trump could park a fucking aircraft carrier outside El Malecón tomorrow. Bomb Diaz-Canel, and he wins. They win Miami by 30 points. So like, can you blame him? I mean, I don't know.
I feel like during one of our production meetings that we don't have, we need to have a conversation about like the idea of like how do we handle things that we want to report on where there's nothing to report on, and one of those is Cuba, where it's just fucking talk. It's just talk, and it's always just talk. It's been 50 fucking years of talk, and now everybody's like, "Oh my god,
it is the ultimate nothing ever happened story."
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
It's the biggest bullet in your chamber.
Yeah.
This actually came to my attention because of a Jose Duran article in Miami New Times, and in his that he ran under the opinion column there, and it was an article where he was looking into an article from the one of those organizations that always tricks me, Center for Immigration Studies. What do you guys are very obviously Tomas won't be tricked by that, but like, and Gerald is well read enough that he probably isn't either. But every time I see Center for Immigration Studies, their brand tactic works on me, where I assume it to be this sort of like center down the line statistics, Pew Research type of organization. It is absolutely not that. It always takes me like a moment to remember that it is a right-wing fucking like founded by like the John Birch Society, horrible organization.
Can I tell you my favorite thing is they made their acronym CIS at the.
There's also FAIR.
FAIR is another one.
American Immigration Reform, which are like actually like virulent, like literally like racist white supremacists. This is like a common thing, as you say, of just picking like innocuous, like safe sounding, acronyms to actually be like a white supremacist anti-immigrant organization.
There's a lot of that shit.
I hate it, but
and
it's smart.
It's smart, yeah. I mean, like,
wasn't Richard Spencer's joint like the National Policy Institute or something like that?
Yeah,
just like a bland, all brand cereal ass naming. Didn't
the what's his name? See how far, like, this is what happens, man, when you like too many drugs and you like and you and also too much time not on social media.
It's worth it though.
It's worth it. Matt Bruning, he started a progressive like think tank that had like a super anodyne name like too. That was like, name, yeah, it was a super, but like it was a little more base because it would be like, we took a dispassionate look at the way healthcare works and we think we should be China. Right, and it's like, yeah. Oh, okay, all right, like let's do it. You know, so I guess, you know, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. But this article by Jose Duran is titled, this is in the Miami New Times, Think Tank Report Calling Miami a Failure of Assimilation is Bullshit. And it comes from a Center for Immigration Studies report that is titled Miami, a Failure of the Assimilation Model. I would recommend going and reading Jose's article. We're a little short on time. I don't want to go all the way through it, but I will read you a little bit and just give you my thoughts on why I think that this cis article is bullshit. So this is by a guy named Jason Richwine, and it's I'll read you the lead. It's advocates of the libertarian and pro-business right often claim that cultural change caused by immigration is temporary. They insist that today's immigrants will eventually melt into broader cultural mainstream, becoming just as American as people whose families have been here for generations. There are many reasons to be skeptical of that claim, but perhaps the most obvious one is the experience of Miami, Florida. So what Jason Richwine does is goes on to spend another couple thousand words talking about how watching Team Venezuela compete in the World Baseball Classic in Miami Stadium with mostly Spanish-speaking fans cheering them on as they defeated the USA is evidence. And the fact, along with the fact that like 1 in 3 Miami families speak Spanish at home, including my family, we speak a mix of English and Spanish at home. That means that the Miami melting pot assimilation project was a failure. It's been long enough. We started letting these Cubans in here. All they did was bring in other Latinos and start speaking Spanish at everybody and scaring us and confusing us, and we don't understand what they mean, and they won't cheer for our baseball team. That fucking sucks, by the way. USA baseball sucks. And like, why the fuck would they, by the way? And there's a million things that you can pick apart about this article, but the only one, Jose Duran, and I'm sure Tomas and Gerald, you guys both have thoughts on it. The only thing I want to say is, I think the entire premise is wrong. I think
they're too assimilated. I wish they were.
They're too assimilated. Yes, that exactly. The Miami Hispanic, the Miami new guy, our Miami new guy.
Miami new guy. Go back to that episode.
Go back to Miami new guy.
To the episode where we talk about the Miami new guy.
You could put fucking chaps and a cowboy outfit and a fucking Marlboro cigarette on the Miami new guy, and he couldn't be more American than he already is. The Miami new guy is the Miami Latino man and woman, honestly, that are here now. This person who speaks Spanish in their home to their kid that Jason Richwine is complaining about, he shouldn't be complaining about. But now we, the three of us on this podcast, and people who feel the way that we feel and who fall on the political spectrum that we fall on, would take umbrage with a lot of what Miami new guy is about and his politics and his view of the world. But Jason Richwine should fucking love this guy. Yeah. It's crazy. They have assimilated beyond your wildest expectations. These guys have completely embraced Americana.
If you grab the Cuban Republican that he thinks is not assimilating, or like a San Francisco like white like liberal, like this guy from the Center for Immigration, from CIS, like the Cuban Republican is much closer to his ideology.
Absolutely.
What are you talking about? The problem is these people have assimilated too much. We need less assimilation. Also, I just reject the article altogether. I reject the idea, but also its premise. I want people to assimilate less. That's personally me.
Yeah. Yeah, assimilate to what? Assimilate to shitty consumerism? Assimilate to fucking
it's because
like 2 for $20 deals at Chili's?
Like that's essentially what he's upset about. They don't go to Applebee's and they don't get a PF Chang's. And
which, by the way, they do. They do all those things.
I know, but he doesn't know that.
Go to Dolphin Mall on a Saturday. Go check out fucking Bahama Breeze in Kendall. Dude, tell me they're not assimilating.
Go to my favorite place in Miami, the Flanagans in Coconut Grove. Yes. That's America,
tell
me that baby.
Yeah.
Like everybody every year on St. Patty's Day, 1,000 Cubans who work in finance in Coral Gables or in Brickell all get together and pretend that they're Irish and go to John Martin's. They are so assimilated. Listen, like it's crazy.
This is not the stupidest article that we've talked about in this episode. I still think that's the Vive Session one.
Yeah, that one's really bad.
But this is pretty close. Like, it's dumb.
So
it's just fundamentally wrong in every possible way.
Well, it's trying to provide a scientific veneer for, just like white supremacy. But
yeah.
For example, in Miami, we cover and I'm up in New York City, Miami certainly have their problems, but they certainly also have their charms and their successes. Someone should be forced to, if you're going to write this type of article, I think there are more languages spoken, like in I guess as like when you factor in population density, more languages per square mile in Jamaica, Queens, than there is, I think, in any other part of the world. Miami, certainly, like no shortage of cultures living, if not together, at least side by side, shall we say. Someone should have to explain to the reader, why do Miami and New York look the way they do? If this is what produces failed societies, is people from different cultures living amongst each other, why do New York and Miami look the way they do? And the whitest parts of the country, we'll say West Virginia, just throwing it out there. Why does if it has nothing to do with economics and everything to do with culture, why does West Virginia look the way it does and New York and Miami look the way they do? And that's not an elitist thing to ask. You should have to explain to me why the white parts look, not so great.
Well, I'll give you a little hint into where Jason Richwine's thinking is as we part, because we're at the top of the hour.
I'm sorry for going back to 2017 loud.
No.
Like that, there is no other way around this.
The author of that article for CIS, I'm going to is he has his own. He's pretty influential because he has his own Wikipedia article, and it just from the headline, it is Jason Richwine is an American political commentator and author. So this is going to give you a little insight, a little insight. There's certain things that will reveal themselves here. He is best known for his doctoral dissertation titled IQ and Immigration Policy.
Oh boy.
Do I have to say any?
Oh boy.
And a report he co-authored for the Heritage Foundation on the economic costs of illegal immigration to the United States, which concluded that the passing of the Border Security, Economic Opportunity, and Immigration Modernization Act of 2013 would cost taxpayers more than $6 trillion.
God.
And then he's got a whole bunch of stuff in his like works page about IQ and immigration and Latinos and our IQs and $6 trillion.
2013 money also.
Yeah, because you got to pay for all those like translations underneath everything, Tomas. It's got to be like
for all those trans surgeries that every single immigrant will.
Every immigrant comes and gets.